Good. Okay, so we're back and we were talking about the spiritual malady, the doctor's opinion. Now let's go on to step one. On the top of my sheet it says step one. The problem is our thinking. Oh my God. I always thought alcohol was the problem. Guess what? The problem isn't alcohol. The problem is my thinking gets me to the alcohol. And I didn't know that. I honestly didn't know that. And today I know that the main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. So the main problem is my thinking. Because my thinking gets me to the alcohol. It's not from my heart. It doesn't come from anywhere else. It comes from my thinking. So the main problem is our thinking. And I need to be honest. Honest, I'm an alcoholic. And through, I'm an alcoholic. And once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. So let's get to it. And step one, it said, we admit it. So we is the first 100 men and women who wrote this with Bill Wilson and Dr. Bob. We are the first 100 men and women. So it says, we admitted we're powerless over alcohol. Powerless over alcohol, what they're saying is I stopped listening to God. Because power means God, powerless means not listening to God. Right? So we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, and that our life became unmanageable. What they're talking about is our life became unmanageable. It's a pure spiritual malady. It's unbearable restlessness, discontent. My life became unmanageable. Oh, did it ever? Because I was in that spiritual malady. I didn't know what to do. I need help. I don't need help. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. Oh my God. So I needed to know the main problem is my thinking. So we're going to start off with read Big Book pages from 1 to 43. Okay, page 11. So again, I've just highlighted things from the Big Book, and this is what I have it here. So if you go to your Big Book, page 11, I'm going to tell you the pages now. And this is step one. So what happened is, before I even read this, Bill's sponsor was Ebby. So Ebby came knocking at the door. Bill Wilson's drinking. They go to the table and they're sitting at the kitchen table, and Ebby talks to him and says, look, I have this new recovery, and Ebby has too much sober, and Bill's sitting there drinking, and he's sitting there drinking. But Bill's seen something from Ebby because they used to drink together, and he looked right at Ebby, and this is what he said as Bill is drinking and Ebby's sober, and Ebby's trying to give him these 12 steps. This is what he said. Page 11. Here was something at work in the human heart which had done the impossible. So this, people, has to do with the heart. Page 14. They mention this 3 times in the Big Book. Faith without works is dead. Page 16. Faith has to work 24 hours a day in and through us, or we perish. Page 20, modern drinkers have little trouble in giving up liquor entirely if they have a good reason for it. They can take it or leave it alone. Page 21, the real alcoholic may start off as a modern drinker, but at some stage of his drinking career, he begins to lose all control of his liquor consumption once he starts to drink. Page 22, once he takes any alcohol, whatever in his system, something happens both bodily and mental sense, which makes it virtually impossible for him to stop. So what that tells me is once I start drinking, I can't stop, I can't control it. The more I drink, the more I have to drink. It talks about being virtually impossible to stop. So for me to go down, I live in Vancouver, BC, for me to go down to the rough area, let's say, Maine and Hastings, and go around and talking to people who are on drugs and alcohol, and tell them, like, look, no, just stop drinking, just stop doing this, just stop drinking. That's impossible for them to do that. Remember, we talked about that we need a spiritual experience, a psychic change. The very first 3 steps should give you that. It should be good enough to get you on track, seeing life a whole new way. And if you don't see life differently after the first 3 steps, you're definitely doing something wrong. So let's continue. Okay, let's get together. Impossible for him to stop. Okay, oh, this is my favorite. It's page 23. This is really important. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than in his body. I'm going to say it again. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind rather than his body. So the main problem is not alcohol. The main problem isn't my girlfriend. It isn't my bank account. It isn't my job. The main problem of the alcoholic centers in his mind. The main problem is my thinking. That's page 23. Page 25. I love this. Do you know, I've been to a lot of places around the world, and I'm looking for God. And I'm searching for God. I'm looking everywhere for God. Little did I realize that God, they told me exactly where God was in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. Page 25. The central factor in our lives today is absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in it, which in a way, lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. Let me say that again. The central factor of our lives today is absolute certainty that our Creator has entered into our hearts and lives in a way which is indeed miraculous. So, I don't care who God is. I really don't. God could mean 100 things to 100 different people. I'm not talking about who God is. I'm talking about where God is in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So, Bobby, where's God?
In your heart.
In our heart, right. So I am going to continue. Bobby, you can continue. Page 25. 1.
Page 25. One was to go on to the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of our intolerable situation as best we could, and the other to accept spiritual help. Page 29. Further on, clear-cut directions are given showing how we recovered.
Okay, I'm sorry, Bobby. I'm going to take over. Page 30. This is really important, people. I'm going to read this to you. This is the scariest part in the big book. This is the insanity. Now, you hear when you go to the fellowship, look, the insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right? Well, wrong. That's not the insanity they're talking about. This is the insanity. This is the scariest part I'm going to read in the big book. And here we go. The idea that somehow, someday, he will control and enjoy his drinking is a great obsession to every abnormal drinker. The persistence of this illusion is astonishing. Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. So, the insanity is the first two words. The insanity is, and this is page 30, page 30 is the first two words, the idea. See, I get an idea, and I talk to newcomers, I talk to people who are thinking about drinking. What they're doing is, they're actually thinking about drinking. It's the idea. They got an idea. Maybe I'm not an alcoholic. Maybe I don't have these two symptoms or these three symptoms. Maybe I don't. But this is the scariest part. So go ahead, Bobby. Page 30, we learned.
Page 30, we learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people or presently may be has to be smashed. Page 33, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. Page 33, there must be no reservation of any kind, nor any lurking notion that someday we will be immune to alcohol.
Okay, I'm going to mention something here. I'm going to read it again to you because this is, I hear this, I've heard this from almost every woman I've ever helped with the 12 steps. Page 33. There must be no reservation of any kind, no lurking notion that someday we will be immune to alcohol. So when I'm helping, I help daughters, sons, mothers, dads, uncles, grandparents. I help out anyone homeless. I'll help out anyone, anywhere, anytime. But when I help women with this work, there is a lurking notion with women. And I don't find this with men. And the lurking notion is this, is that one day they are going to get married. And they're going to have that white picket fence, and they're going to have that white wedding dress, but they're going to drink champagne on their wedding night. And how many times have I heard this over and over the years? I've heard it many times. And the answer is no, you can't have any kind of liquor whatsoever. No reservations of any kind, none. Okay, okay, page 34. Lost the power to choose whether he will drink or not. Power is God. So lost the power to choose whether he will drink or not. Stop listening to God. Page 39. We will absolutely unable to stop drinking on basis of self-knowledge. So self-knowledge is in the mind. You're thinking. It's not going to work. Page 40, the subtle insanity which precedes the first drink. Page 42, I saw that willpower and self-knowledge would not help in those strange mental blank spots. Page 43, once more, the alcoholic at certain times has no effective mental defense against the first drink, except in a few rare cases. Neither he nor another human being can provide such a defense. His defense must come from a higher power. So what that tells me, your defense must come from a higher power. So that means if my sponsor will not help me stay sober, my girlfriend will not help me stay sober, my friend will not help keep me sober. What will keep me sober is my defense must come from a power greater than myself, a higher power. Okay, we are going to take a small break here, and thank you.